Welcome to the Awakened Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Awakened Heart Podcast. And this episode, I sit down with Monica Mangelson, a life purpose coach, digital nomad, and adventure seeker who turns societal expectations on their head to create a life of freedom and fulfillment. Raised in an Orthodox home where marriage and motherhood were the expected path, Monica knew deep down there had to be more. After a canceled Peace Corps opportunity left her feeling stuck, she and her husband took control of their destiny, building an online business that allows them to travel the world. Now, as a certified life purpose coach with a deep understanding of neuroscience, Monica helps others step into their power and design lives they truly love. Join us as we explore the neuroscience behind personal transformation, overcoming fear, and breaking free from limiting beliefs. Hi, Monica. Welcome to the Awakened Heart Podcast.
Oh my gosh, Nancy, I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I am excited to have you here too. And I just want to mention the mishap that we had that I've never had before. And I prepared all morning for the wrong guest. It was another Monica, and she shows up. Same the couple that do work together and therapy and counseling and all that stuff. And so I prepared all morning for the wrong person, and she shows up. I'm like, this girl is way too young to have 70 years experience. And then I was like, is something wrong with the website? And it came out that I prepared for the wrong guest, even though I have the right person scheduled. So I took time out. She was flexible and I prepared. And now here we are. So I'm so glad you had some flexibility today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a big believer that things always work out the way they're supposed to. So the fact that I had my morning cleared, I was able to go make myself some tea beforehand. It's all good. It's all good.
Wonderful, wonderful. And this conversation, I don't think I've had anyone on the podcast that's talked about something like this. And you and your husband work together, and you work together to help other people to create the dream life that you have created yourself as a couple working together. And you have an amazing program, Becoming Unstoppable. It's a masterclass, and it's backed by neuroscience, because of a lot of us, we don't listen to our own intuition. You have also something about trusting your gut. It's intuition. And so many people want to create the life that you did. They're tired of these corporate jobs. How am I going to create the life that I love? We talk about that a lot on this podcast, and especially with the younger generation. We've got the Instagram, we've got the TikTok crowds, we've got the influencers, and you're seeing them travel all over the world and creating this digital nomad lifestyle, which is pretty amazing, because I think the last 10, 15 years, we've seen a lot of people doing it. I think really we've started seeing it since really Instagram. And because of the computer and the way we work now with technology, we're able to live and work anywhere. We can work a job. You were working as a virtual assistant, and you can travel these amazing places in the world. I saw on your website, you went to Chiang Mai. I've been there. You went to Thailand, Vietnam. And just to mention your timeline a little bit, when you go to her website, which we'll mention at the end, and I'll put in my show notes, that you both met in college in 2017, and then you married a year later, and then you got a job with the Peace Corps. Yay, we're so excited. But just before you were ready to go, it was in Mozambique, Africa, the COVID shutdown started, or it hit, and you weren't ever able to go. That happened to me. I had signed up for shamanic breath work in Bali. I was supposed to go December of 2020. Everything shut down in April. I kept hoping that I'd be able to go, that it'd be over, and so it had to get canceled. So I never went back out there to do that. I was supposed to go twice. I was supposed to go December 2020 and then again in the spring of 21, but it never happened. So we kind of just, things happen for a reason, and we kind of like we either get really upset about it or we choose to shift our paths. And at that point, you guys quit your jobs to become virtual assistants and you traveled the world and you launched your company. Um, and in 2022, your profitable nomad couple podcast, you launched that podcast. So that's a little timeline about how you were giving a box of salt with the pandemic and how you created something new out of it. So I would love to hear, well, first of all, let's go back into your background. You grew up in a very Mormon Orthodox home with a clear set path for you, marriage and family. What was the moment you realized that the path wasn't quite right for you?
Yeah, you know what? It's been a journey to get to where I am. As always, I just want to just really quickly just talk about my background. Austin and I did start like with helping people become digital nomads, and then we realized that there's so much more than that. So now I am a fully trained and certified neuroscience life coach. So I just help people envision what their life could be and then help them get there. So whether that's being a digital nomad, which I absolutely love, can geek out about that all day long, or whether it's, just living a little bit more intentionally, I will help my clients help create that space in their life as well. Growing up, I think everyone has a little bit of a set path. I think mine was a little bit more rigid than most people's. The expectation was very much go to school, go to high school. I'm a girl. So in the Mormon tradition, in the Mormon faith, it's expected that all the young men go on missions. It's not expected that all the young women do, but it's also kind of encouraged. But like, if you don't want to go, no one's going to be super upset if you don't go. My mom, however, was like, I want all 6 of my kids to be missionaries. Like that would just be amazing. And so I felt a lot of pressure from that side. I did end up going on a mission when I was 19. And then you're supposed to come back and then you're supposed to get married and you're supposed to start having babies. Like that was the goal. That was the plan. And I didn't even know what I wanted to study or like had any thought about a career because I wasn't really supposed to have one because I'm a woman. Like my goal was to just pop out babies. Like that was my purpose in life. That's what would bring my salvation, all these things. When I was 15 years old, however, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic condition called MRKH syndrome, which basically the short of it is I will never have babies. Like I was just not built to have babies. And at the time, it was devastating. I was devastated because I had been taught my whole life that as a woman, my salvation came from having babies. I would never be closer to God than when I was having babies and being a mother. And that was when my relationship with my mother started to kind of die. Like she didn't really know what to do with me. Like she was grieving in her own way. She also has dedicated her life to raising 6 children in the home. That is her identity and her purpose. And she didn't know how to support another woman when she felt so strongly that that was supposed to be my identity and purpose. And it just was such a dark period. Like I just felt like the scum of the earth. I just felt like God must have hated me so much to put me on this earth as a woman with one role in mind and then take that away from me as a 15-year-old. And that is when I started to think differently about life. It wasn't though until I was 19 years old. I had moved to Peru to go be on a mission, and there was one point on that mission. I was about a year in. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was sharing about how he was a couple years older than me, but he had a daughter and then lost his visitation rights, and he was sobbing and it was just like this crazy pain that he had. And there's this moment that I don't know how to describe other than we had this soul connection where we just made eye contact and I saw his soul and I feel like he saw mine. And I feel like we had this mutual shared pain of just feeling like we were the worst, feeling like we didn't deserve to be here. And then all of a sudden it all made sense. I was like, everything that I've been through was for this moment right now. Everything that I've been through is there's so much more to me than being a mother. There's so much more good that I can do than popping up babies. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, that was such a big revelation of I'm still here. There's so much good I can do here on this earth that looks different than what I've been told I'm supposed to do. And that was the moment that everything changed for me.
Because you were given such rigid programming instead of allowing, yes, you can have kids too, but you can also have this as well.
Mhm.
And the way you were raised, you're molded to, okay, you have babies. Okay, then you start feeling worthless because you can't have a baby. But luckily, you had this experience that gave you, there's more to life than this. Instead of going down this path that I'm worthless, I'm just going to get married. And then you have a husband that like abuses you because you don't have self worth. And it spirals into this really horrible path. So you were able to at least get yourself out of that mindset or that program mindset. And now you've created this life that is much more aligned. And you saw that there was a purpose, like,
Mm.
okay, it led me to this moment in time where I am now. And so you had the Peace Corps was your dream back then,
Mhm.
and the pandemic stole that opportunity. How did that setback shape your next steps? And I
Mm.
know that you had that experience in Peru, but the Peace Corps in Africa was your dream.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like you mentioned, I met my husband in college and we just both fell in love over this mutual love of adventure and travel. We traveled a lot for broke college kids. And then we were kind of getting to the end of college and we're like, man, I don't want to go to more school. I'm not ready to go to an office yet. Like, I want anything else. And so we ended up signing up for the Peace Corps. It's a really intensive process to get accepted. We went through that whole process, all the like really intense like medical exams and background checks and all of these crazy things. And then we got accepted to Mozambique, Africa. And it was just like the
Mm.
most perfect thing. Like, I cannot tell you how aligned it just felt. I was like, this is where we're supposed to be. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And so then we sold all of our stuff. We got rid of our housing contract. We had someone lined up to buy our car. And literally 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, everything came to a screeching halt. And
Oh, 2 weeks.
nobody handled the pandemic well because nobody knew what was going on. But the
Mhm.
Peace Corps really didn't handle it well, where
Mm-mm.
they just kept saying, okay, like, just wait a couple weeks, wait a couple months, and then they just stopped talking to us. And so we ended up last minute just like scrambling to find a place. Austin's parents took us in. They thought it was just going to be a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. Ended up being like about 9 months that we lived with them. And we were able to get jobs in California with Austin's parents working in healthcare, which for anyone working in healthcare at that time, like, man,
Oh,
props to you.
boy.
I'm so proud of you for getting through that. It was wild. I really, really struggled. And it was just this overwhelming sense of anger. I was so angry that my plans had been disrupted. And it was something that I had felt so called to do. I felt so excited and everything had fallen into place. And I had like prepped my friends and family, had posted about it. And I just felt like so mad that it didn't
Mhm.
work out. And I was mad at God at that time, at the universe, because like, you called me to this knowing that this pandemic was going to come and
Mhm.
that I was going to end up not doing that. Like, why would you have done that? And I was so, so angry. And during that time, I mean, looking back now, I can see that I was in a really deep depression and didn't necessarily recognize it. I ended up putting on about like 40 pounds. I ended up just really, really struggling in my relationship with Austin struggle, and everything was so rough. And so I remember I had one day when I was working with a client and I worked with the elderly. And so I was cleaning him up and he said something really rude to me and was just so mean to me. And I remember that day I was like, I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. I'm so tired of being angry. I'm so tired of wiping people's butts. I'm so tired of putting my life on hold for something that might not ever come, like waiting
Mhm.
for somebody else to tell me I can start living again. And so I immediately went to Pinterest and I started Pinterest shopping for a new life. I was like, okay, I know that I want to travel and I just feel so stuck. I know that I need something, anything to get me out of this situation. And so I ended up finding virtual assisting through that. And I was like, people make money online. It blew my mind. And they're like, they make money while they travel. And I was so excited. So I put together all of this, like, I put together a secret Pinterest board, like a presentation basically. And I pitched it to Austin. And I was like, man, I know that you're grieving, but I also know that we can't do this anymore. Like, we have to give up on the Peace Corps, at least for now, and move forward with something. Like, we need something. And so we ended up quitting our jobs. We both had really good jobs in healthcare. We were making really good money, but we quit and we said we have 6 months to make this work.
Mhm.
And we went all in. We were learning, we were taking courses, we were trying all these things. And within a month and a half, we had our first couple of clients. And it just,
Wow.
we never looked back. And immediately we had this freedom to start moving around. Now, we weren't able to travel like out of the country. COVID was still very much running
Mhm.
rampant. But during 2020, a lot of our friends and family started ripping up their houses and doing house projects that got way out of hand. And so 2021, we literally ended up with a list of people who were like, come live with us, help us do our house projects and get this under wrap, and you can live here rent free. And so we were able to be super scrappy as we were starting our businesses. And we traveled all over the West Coast. We got to see friends and family. We got to solidify those relationships more than we ever had before or ever would have been able to if we had traditional jobs. And we just got addicted. We got hooked into the lifestyle. And so we've been nomadic ever since. We've been traveling abroad and throughout the States. And it has just been the most fantastic journey. And I'm so grateful today that the Peace Corps didn't work out. As heartbreaking as it was, I know that I needed that push. Otherwise, I would have probably been in corporate America today. You know, I never would have known that there's a world beyond work, that there's a world beyond what the traditional lifestyle that people tell you that you're supposed to want, the picket fence. Like, I never would have known that if it wasn't for COVID. So I have gotten to the place where I'm extremely grateful for that whole mishap.
Yeah, so many people, you could have been stuck in that job. Yes, healthcare, it's like a golden handcuffs. You've got you've got the hours, you've got good pay, you've got benefits. So many people get stuck on that because they're afraid to lose that security or take that leap off the edge. And you just were very unhappy, and it motivated you instead of like keeping you stuck. So you were motivated, you created this amazing, you springboarded what happened during the pandemic. You couldn't go anywhere, but it's interesting that people were tearing up their houses because what can we do at home? We can't go anywhere. So you springboarded on that to get you, you were creating your business while doing that, and the ability to travel on the West Coast. Where are some of the places you went on the West Coast? Were you in California?
Yeah, so we started in California. That's where Austin's family is. And we ended up in Oregon, in Washington, in Idaho. We ended up in Utah. And we kind of bounced back and forth between those states, mostly during the pandemic. We were still really cautious when it came to traveling. So we were definitely just going to like friends and family. We weren't really branching out besides that during the pandemic. Since then, we've kind of explored more of the states and a lot more of outside of the states as well.
Well, that's got to have been interesting during that period of time because every state handled the pandemic differently. And you stayed within the states. There was periods of time where I didn't think we were going to be able to, unless we took a certain medical intervention, travel anywhere in the states, let alone out of the country. So as soon as that opened up, you were able to expand and travel elsewhere while you're building your business. So what are some of the biggest challenges in building a business as a couple? And how did you navigate it?
There are so many. It's so fun. Austin is like the yin to my yang. I am very much the visionary, big picture. I have all the ideas, where he's very much the integrator. I would say one of the biggest challenges has been aligning our business to be something that we both love, and to have it be something that fulfills both of us. You see it throughout my business journey, where we started as VAs. Austin was a fabulous VA. I was a terrible VA because I am that visionary big picture, and the VA is very much like the integrator role. And so he was really good at it. I was really terrible. So then we ended up like really niching down into just doing designing services for our kind of VA business. And that's when people were like, oh my gosh, this thing you're doing is really cool. Can you help me too? So we kind of accidentally found coaching through that. And then Austin kind of stepped away into the background of the business. And so now I'm the face of the business. I dove headfirst into neuroscience coaching, applied neuroscience coaching, and life purpose coaching because I am obsessed with it. And that just wasn't Austin's vibe. And so finding ways that we both fit together has been challenging. One of the things to like overcome that is we have to just be so radically honest with each other. We definitely have conversations where we're in business mode versus conversations when we're in couple mode. And you have to be able to separate that. And that can be hard. And it can be hard not to get your feelings hurt when you're in business mode and not bring it into your personal life as well, and to create that separation. And so something that's been really helpful for us, and we still do every single week, is we have a meeting at the beginning of the week where we talk about what the plans are, what the goals are, what is on the calendar. We make sure that we're on the same page. And then we can just be really frank with each other, like, how's it going? What's working for you? What's not working for you? Right now, he has also started a second career of data science. And so he's really busy. And so now I know, okay, like I still have expectations for him in my business. He edits my podcast and he helps with the finances and he does a lot of the integrator stuff. But I know that he's not always busy. So I have to be really efficient in the way I communicate with him and be really efficient with, okay, I just last week we had an issue with the podcast and I was like, hey, you need to do this. I need it done now. And like most people listening to that would be like, oh, that's not a very loving couple. But it's very much like we have a separation between business mode and couple mode, if that makes sense.
Were there some of the biggest mindset shifts, or what were some of them in order to step into this new way of living?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is just giving up the 9-to-5 lifestyle because I didn't know anything else and Austin didn't know anything else. And so understanding how to unplug from your business when it feels like so much of you and it feels like it's giving you, it's so hard. It becomes all consuming in some ways and you love it and you're excited about it and you want it to grow. And so you want it to be all consuming. But at the same time, you started this for a reason. Like you didn't start this so you can work 24/7. You started this so you could have a lifestyle that feels aligned and fulfilling and happy and peaceful to you. And for most people, that only comes when you're able to step away from work. That only comes when you're able to create that separation, create that space. And so being able to recognize that, you know, some days, maybe we take a half day off and that's okay. Or some days maybe we sleep in because we're exhausted and that's okay. And it didn't feel okay at first. It felt like we were being lazy. It felt like it just felt like went against everything we were ever taught, where we were supposed to get up, we're supposed to work really hard, we're supposed to clock in and then clock out, when all of a sudden we were having a hard time clocking out, but we also felt like we had to clock in at the same time every single day. And so embracing this mindset of I actually am in control. I actually get to create a life that I want to be living. I am the creator. I'm in the driver's seat. Was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And then all along the way, I mean, there were mindset shifts all along the way of creating a life of abundance and joy and feeling like we deserve that when a lot of our other friends and family feel like they're struggling or feel boxed in, or we've had some kickback of people saying they're jealous or they're upset that we're doing these things and we're abandoning them and their lifestyle values and things like that. And so understanding that what makes sense for me doesn't make sense for everyone else. And that's okay. And so there's a lot of big mindset shifts that come up. And I think that's the beauty of this lifestyle is it forces us to live so much more intentionally. We always have to be checking in with ourselves and with each other and saying, okay, like, where are we going next? Okay, what are we doing in the business next? Okay, what do we need right now in this moment? And that might look different next week, next month, next year. But right now, what do we need to thrive? What do we need to survive? What do we need to grow our business? And that change has been phenomenal for us.
It's the mindset shift, because when you're working for yourself, it's not like you have a 9 to 5, you're getting this paycheck and you're done and you're getting all these benefits you're creating. So if you're not working at it, feel like you're not creating it, not giving yourself that time off or the weekends and such, and then you get burnout. But as you said, as like with neuroscience that you're very excited about, and this whole way of being now and what you teach other people is I am the creator. It's like intentional. And I'd like to hear some of the neuroscience. We had talked about Joe Dispenza, but this mindset shift and some of the neuroscience behind it. Can you go into that a little bit? Because like I said, so many people feel so stuck in their life and they don't even, they might dream of making a change and seeing your lifestyle and thinking that I can't do this. This couldn't possibly happen for me. What are the first steps in making that shift?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is to recognize that that's totally normal. Our brains are wired for efficiency. Our brains are wired to keep us safe, to keep us alive. That's what our brains are meant to do, are made to do. And so in order to be the most efficient, our brains create shortcuts. And in order to create shortcuts, your brain needs a routine. And so anything outside of that routine feels scary, feels overwhelming, feels like I couldn't possibly do that. And so just the first step is just recognizing that you have these routines. I grew up in a really big farm town, so hopefully this is a good analogy for most people because it makes sense in my head. But In these big farms, they have the sprinklers, the ones that are like on the track that kind of go like in a semicircle. And the wheels are huge. They're like 6 feet tall and they're like 3 feet wide. And they kind of do this like little semicircle. They have one stationary point and they pivot around it. And they do that every single day. They just go across and they make sure everything gets watered in the crops. Well, those wheels doing that same thing every day, all of a sudden you have created a ditch that is 4 feet deep. And it is so hard. If you were to want to move that wheel out of that ditch, impossible. Crazy hard because you have created such a valley. The same thing is happening with our brains. Our brains create neural connections that are wearing that path. Every time you do the same thing, it creates connections and wears that path. So a really potent example is like, think about the last time you got in the car and then all of a sudden you're parking the car and you don't remember how you got to your destination. You just kind of blanked it out. And it's kind of terrifying because you're like, I just drove a car and I don't remember it. But that's because your brain has created that neural connection, that neural pathway so strong so that you can have your attention be somewhere else. And that's how our brains work. That's what makes our brains so efficient. So whenever we're looking at making a change, something we've never done before, our brains are going to be like, I don't think so because I don't know how to be efficient. I don't know how to make sure that you are safe with this new challenge. And that's going to look like so many different things. It might look like anxiety. It might look like fear. It might just feel like that's impossible. There's no possible way. Sometimes it might kind of be anger or frustration or kind of like nitpicking other people who have done it. And you're kind of like, well, they only could do it because of this, or that must not be real. It's not going to last that long. Like those are all ways that your brain is bringing up to you to try to protect you. So the first step is just to notice that. Notice that this is what your brain is trying to do. And then you can really easily start to reframe that and be like, okay, thank you. Like, I appreciate you trying to keep me safe, but I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to do this. So I go through with all my clients, I have a neurofulfillment method that I walk them through. And the first step is to be able to create a vision for yourself. So if you're trying to make a change, the first thing you need to know is where you're going. And then you also need to know where you are. So you need to create a vision. You need to show your brain what's possible and really let yourself start to imagine yourself there. Our brains don't always know the difference between reality and what you're imagining. And so if you can just visualize, just allow yourself to start to dream, to Pinterest shop for a new life or whatever you need to do, and allow yourself to start to daydream and to allow yourself to start to dream bigger. And so then you start to let your brain feel safe in this new vision for yourself. The next step in this method is to create an unshakable belief in yourself. And this is a big step. And so you're going to start taking the smallest amount of actions possible. And you're going to start to take action. And when you do, things are going to come up for you. And so just start to notice what's coming up and start working towards creating that feeling of safety in your brain. Something that's super helpful, just like a really quick tip for this one, is when you're trying to make changes, you're ultimately trying to make identity changes. Even if you're just trying to change jobs, that's part of your identity. So you're trying to become a new person. And so the more you can set your environment up for that new person you're becoming, whether that is making sure that you have a wardrobe, like maybe you want to look like a professional businesswoman. So maybe you start buying more blazers and you put them in your closet. Or maybe you are just wanting to feel happy and you're just wanting to love yourself more. Then maybe you start putting up quotes all over your house about, hey, like, I love you. You're awesome. Hey, you can do this. You are fantastic. And maybe you go like book a photo shoot and you take pictures that make you feel beautiful and make you feel empowered. And then you post those on your wall. So you find ways to set up your environment to support this person that you are working to become. And then the third step is just to create that plan and just to start working. And you can't wait for the perfect time. You can't wait for motivation because motivation doesn't exist. You have to make the first step. And the amazing thing is we wait so much for motivation, but oftentimes motivation comes in the form of like a dopamine hit. And so the second you take action and you do something and you succeed at it, you get a dopamine hit, which spurs you to take another action. And then you get that dopamine hit, which spurs you to take another action. And it becomes this amazing spiral that every time we take action, our brains are like, like having a little party. This is fun for them. And so they want to continue to take action and to keep you motivated and to keep you moving forward. I don't remember what the original question was, so hopefully I answered it through all of this little
Yes.
spiel here.
Yes, you did. We were just talking about the shifts that they need to make in order to create the life that they love. And with that, what do you see some other biggest blocks as far as making this shift?
Mm. Yeah, there is a really big one that I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit resistant to hearing, but a lot of people are afraid of being successful. A
Mm,
lot of people are afraid of making it
good point.
because what happens is we fear that once we have become successful, people are going to view us differently. That our tribe, our family, our friends are going to think of us differently. So whether that's I'm trying to build wealth, but I'm surrounded by people who are broke. They're going to look at me different.
Mm,
They're going to treat me different. Or I see this a lot with my clients who are trying to lose weight, where they feel like the people around them aren't going to want to hang out with them anymore. That they're not going to be able to go to lunch, or they're not going to be able to get drinks with their friends, or that their friends are not going to accept them as this new fit version of themselves, and that they don't really deserve it. Um, so there's a big fear, and this manifests in so many different ways, but I think a lot of us actually are afraid of being successful. Um, which, like I said, is hard to hear sometimes because you feel like you want it so bad,
mhm.
but then you find yourself constantly going back and backtracking on your goals, or backtracking on your plan, or just not following through with what you thought you were going to do. And so if you find yourself in that space where you're like, man, I just really want this thing. I really want to lose weight. I really want to start a business. I really want to make and create generational wealth. I really want to travel. But then you find yourself making all these excuses, or not booking that ticket, or spending more money than you should have. I really would challenge you to start looking at the fact, like, am I afraid of being successful? And I think more of us than we realize will end up with the answer of yes, I am afraid.
That's so interesting. It is so interesting, but it does make sense. Like, okay, well, what's going to happen? If it's just keeping them stuck and keeping them safe, and that something that they know, and that's why so many people stay where they are. But you got to step into that success, that version of yourself, that vision of yourself. I can see how that could hold a lot of people back. So, what are some of the most rewarding parts of helping others step into their power and design their own dream lives?
There's a moment in all of my clients' journey where it just kind of clicks for them. And that is my favorite part of what I do. And so a really good example was my client, Bibiana. I was working with her, and she really wanted to create a life where she could spend more time with her nieces and nephews. But she was in her 50s, kind of mid 50s. And so she was like, I just think it's too late. I think I've wasted all my time. I don't think I could make a career shift. I don't think I could make a life shift. And I just don't think I could do it. And as she was talking, you can see kind of her shoulders were kind of slumped. She
Mhm.
kind of like didn't have good posture. She was making eye contact, but like not super. And so we took a second, and I said, okay, let's pause here for a second. What if you started thinking that everything was possible? What would change for you? And all of a sudden she like sat up, and like her
Mm.
eyes got big, and she kind of had this sparkle in her eye, and she said, well, I guess I would start by getting up and going to the gym. And then I would go talk to people. And then I would go like make sure that my environment's set up, and I would still go to work because I still need money, but I would also, I would also start writing because she really wanted to be a writer. And she's like, and I would just find all these ideas and inspirations, and I would talk to more people, and I would find more people who are doing what I do. And she just got excited, and like the momentum picked up and her energy picked up, and she just sat up straight, and she had this crazy sparkle in her eye.
Mm.
And that's the moment I look for in all of my clients.
Mhm.
It's there's this moment when all of a sudden you start to think, wait a second, maybe I can actually do this. And you start to pick up that momentum, and your energy builds, and you see a physical shift in them. And the thing that I love so much about this is ultimately she wanted to be a writer. She wanted to be able to go visit her nephew more. That was her goal. But when she started believing that that was possible for her, all of a sudden she was taking better care of her physical health. She was like, I'll go to the gym. She was more social. She was talking to more people. She was taking better care of herself. Everything changed
Mhm.
when you start to believe that you can become a better version of yourself, that you can be that more aligned person, that you can follow that wish, that desire that has kind of kept coming up and over and over and over for you, that you can make that a reality. Once you start to believe that, literally every aspect of your life improves.
Yeah, on a whole energetic level as well, as she started getting up, going to the gym, started feeling better about herself, started to take action steps, and the energy expands outward. And she probably had all these experiences that came into her life because of her whole energy and mindset change.
Yeah,
Can you?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've had clients start businesses. I've had clients start to travel the world. I've had clients lose weight. I've had them
Mhm.
create communities of 2,000 people plus. I've had so many amazing things change and happen for my clients. And it's not always things that they expected to happen. But sometimes those unexpected little gifts that come when you start living in alignment with your higher self are the most meaningful.
So before we wrap things up, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I would just like to ask a few more questions. And one of them is freedom and the fulfillment in your life purpose. What does freedom mean to you now compared to what you were taught growing up?
Yeah, what I was taught growing up is that freedom comes from following a specific set of rules. And
You're
freedom
a rule
comes from
breaker.
checking off the boxes and doing exactly what somebody tells you to be. And that's when you feel the most free. When actually now, freedom is the ability to be yourself. Freedom is the ability to experiment and try things and fall on your face, but then be able to get back up and try again, and to practice using your creativity, and to practice growing, and to just try new things. When I think of freedom, I just think of this incredible ability that we have to be resilient, to be fun and spontaneous, and I kind of already said it though, just to like make mistakes and to allow ourselves to be messy, because I truly believe that as humans, that's how we're designed to learn, is to be
Mhm.
messy and to make mistakes. And we don't have to have it all figured out ever. And so just embracing that fact that you never have to have it figured out, and you can change. You can have one thing be true for you today that's not true for you tomorrow. And you can design your life. Maybe today you're really happy in a stable environment and you really like to be stationary, you like to be at home, you like your city. And maybe next year you're ready to try something new and you want to try a new place and you want to make new friends, or maybe you are really happy with your job, but you want to pick up some new hobbies and you want to explore a creative side of you. Freedom
Mhm.
is just the endless opportunity to explore both ourselves and the world around us.
So I'm hearing a lot of listening to intuition. So if we can just go with the flow of life, like our intuition's telling us something, you teach people how to tap into that and listen to that. And then you can go with the flow. Okay, I'm being told to go here. It's like, the reed, the bending in the wind, like you're malleable and you're flexible. Oh, what does life have for me? Curiosity. What does it have for me? Okay, let me go over here. You're not stuck in this rigid, as we all know now, the life isn't a straight line, it's a spiral, and we're continuously changing and going in different directions. So, if you could give one piece of advice to a couple looking to create their own freedom based lifestyle, what would it be?
Mm. Yes, if you are wanting to create your own freedom based lifestyle, first of all, do it. It's amazing. But second of all, as a couple, I think that there is a huge need to surround yourselves by other people who are inspiring to you, who are successful, who are doing it correctly. I love being in love. I love Austin. He's my best friend. I love hanging out with him. But I found that a lot of couples don't feel the same way.
Yeah.
And a lot of couples are like, man, we would kill each other if we were trying to live together and travel and do all these things. And they kind of make each other the enemy a little bit, and they love to hate each other.
Mm.
And I have found that the more I can surround myself with people who recognize that marriage and a relationship isn't actually hard, it's like life is hard, and you're so lucky to get to spend life with a partner, and you're able to find someone who just really is your best friend, like
Mhm.
your other half. When you're able to find someone like that and then surround yourself by other couples who are constantly trying to better themselves and just love being in love, it just makes life so much easier. I just find myself wanting to raise myself up
Mhm.
to be on their level. Where sometimes when I'm around other couples who love to hate each other, I find myself kind of like, oh yeah, well, like the dishes didn't get done today. And I find myself kind of matching their energy. And so
Mhm.
finding and surrounding yourself by people who match the energy that you want to embody is essential.
Because what is that saying? You're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around, like, or is it 6 people? It's something so your energy and how successful you are is the sum of the 6 or the 5 people that are around you, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
you
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And
mhm,
it's so true, especially when you are looking at making identity shifts and making these big changes in your life. You have to be surrounded by people who make you feel like it's possible and not people who
mhm,
make you feel like you need to get back in line.
mhm. So, your own personal friends and family that you have, do you have an online, like people that create their own digital lifestyle or have their own, create their own coaching or life coach programs? Do you have your own community there as well that helps support you and lift you up? That
Yeah,
might.
absolutely. I
Mhm,
have a free Facebook group where I love connecting with other people who are looking for
mhm,
that freedom lifestyle. It's actually called a freedom frame of mind. And so
mm,
anybody who is like, oh my gosh, I need to be surrounded by more people who are also looking to create, I need to be surrounded by more people who are looking to travel or just looking to create more freedom in their lives. I definitely recommend that as a really great
mm.
resource for you.
Yeah, definitely link that up. You know what? I was just last night. Have you heard of Gabby Petito? I just watched that documentary and she wanted to like do this blog and the van life and she was engaged. She's really young, 22 years old, and she went missing. And they were a couple that shouldn't have been together. He sounded like a narcissist and very possessive of her, and he was very abusive of her, and she was like this beautiful light and full of life, and he took that from her, and it just made me think about it because there's this whole van life community where they kind of kept tracks of each other. And do you remember that? It happened over the pandemic. There's a documentary on Netflix right now, and it's just
Yeah,
staying
I've
with me. It's
seen
so sad.
the ads for it. I haven't actually watched it yet, but yes, I have.
Yeah, it's a couple that worked together and they shouldn't have worked together. It was all her ideas and he was just snuffing out her life. Yeah, so yeah, it's very important to, especially for couples. It's one thing if you're doing it yourself, you really have to have that alignment and good working relationship with each other and outside of each other, and each taking a part of the business. Like you said, your husband is more of like the brains behind the scenes, and he says he's a data scientist. He created the Profitable Nomad Couple podcast? Is he the one that created or you both created that before?
We created together. It's
Okay,
recently been rebranded
that's it.
into the Notes from a Neuro Nerd, the science
Oh, I
behind
love
living your
that.
best life. He still comes and joins me every once in a while when I can twist his arm to convince him to show up behind the mic.
Mhm.
Mostly it's just me and guests, but he does all of the background of it. He does
I
all the
think that's
editing and things like that.
fantastic. I see in the most successful couples, it's that kind of dynamic. Like he's supporting what you're really good at, and he's not fighting to be in front of the microphone or the camera, and you're not fighting to do all the 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 producing and all the like the all the technical stuff behind that. So I think that's a wonderful balance. And you're
Yeah, definitely. And that was another really big learning curve. It's just to like be able to identify our strengths because we did kind of like trip over each other at first when
mhm,
we started, but fully like letting Austin like this is your domain and then this
mhm,
is my domain and I have like final say over here, you have final say over there has made it so much easier and it's just so nice to know that somebody always has my back. And I think that kind of comes down to like just being so confident in who you are and just being embracing your weaknesses. Obviously, when I was trying to be a VA, I was not embracing my weaknesses. I am not a detail oriented person. And so I was trying really hard to portray myself as a detail oriented person, and it was miserable. And so
mhm.
getting to the point where you're confident enough to be able to say, this is my strength, this is my weakness, and then have call in somebody to help complement that is amazing.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, before we wrap up, I love to hear because you traveled a lot as a couple. What is one of your most unexpected life-changing experiences while traveling?
Yeah, one of my favorite life changing experiences while traveling was our first time living abroad. We moved to Guatemala for about 4 months and we were there over Thanksgiving. And we didn't really expect it to be that hard because we're like, oh yeah, like we have Thanksgiving with our family every year. It's just Thanksgiving. Is the end of 2021. So we're like, most of our family and friends aren't gathering still. It'll just be the two of us. It'll be really nice. And it actually ended up being really hard. And we're like, man, we feel really lonely. We feel kind of isolated.
Mm,
And so we have some really good friends in Guatemala. And we were with them for something because we work in an organization in called Becca Scholarships. So we help provide scholarships to kids in rural Guatemala, and we have kind of our resident Guatemalan lady who helps us with that. And so we were running errands with her for that organization, and we just started talking about it. And I was like, hey, like, do you guys want to come for Thanksgiving? And they're like, yeah, we've never had Thanksgiving before. That sounds fun. And so then I'm like, okay, so we're like living in this little tiny village, and I'm like trying to find things that look like stuffing, or like trying to find like, do they have sweet potatoes here? I don't think so. And so like, what can we do that's kind of similar? And so we were looking for ways to create traditional foods. And then we had this little itty bitty tiny bungalow. And so I worked hard all day long to try to bake and like make pie and do all the things to like kind of create American Thanksgiving to share this moment of culture with them. And then we unexpectedly had another friend show up, and we're like, perfect, stay, like have Thanksgiving dinner with us. It'll be great. And I remember there was one moment in particular where I was grabbing a dish from the kitchen, and I looked, and I kid you not, every single dish we owned had been used and was dirty and on the counter. Like it was a mess. It was a mess. And I turned around, and we're sitting on, like, we pulled up the couch, and we had like the table, and it was like super cramped underneath our stairway, and everybody was laughing. And I remember just that moment of like, oh my gosh, like, I've created family here.
Aww.
And I've created family everywhere I go since. And I've created that sense of community and cultivated that sense of community. And we all came from such different backgrounds. In fact, our friend who just kind of showed up, he didn't even speak Spanish as his first language. Like, he was very Mayan. He spoke a Mayan indigenous language. And so for a lot of us, we were communicating in our second language. But we laughed together, and we enjoyed this beautiful meal that was kind of like hodgepodge together. And it was such this heartwarming moment of everywhere I go, I can create family. And I can expand it throughout the world, across differences, across cultures, across languages. And it just has become part of who I am while I travel, is just to have this sense of creating family everywhere I go. And that's a moment that I hold really near and dear to my heart.
That's a beautiful story, because growing up with your family, you probably had huge family gatherings, right? And that was your first one away, and you created it with friends. I mean, I've lived across the country I've been back in Michigan for 2 years, but I always had, when I stopped going home for Christmas and Thanksgiving, we'd have Friendsgiving, and we'd have like, I'd be adopted by, I call them the Sorgel family, because I always had like gatherings and Super Bowl parties and everything. So you can create it anywhere, really. And that is a beautiful thing. Now, did they all help with the dishes, I hope?
My husband did. My husband's really good at that.
Oh, okay.
But the rest of them did not.
Okay. You let them slide. So looking ahead, what's next for you and Austin on this journey?
That's a good question. And I think the short answer is I don't really know, which is really exciting to me. I know that's scary for a lot of people.
But that's where all the possibility is.
Yeah. And I feel like the more I try to make plans, the more I remember that, like, I don't really know what's coming. And there's all twists and turns coming up. I know that we are looking at a couple of digital nomad visas to spend some more time in Europe. I've actually never been to Europe. Austin has. I feel like it's really backwards for a lot of Americans. Like, I've done South America and Asia and just never been to Europe. So we're looking at a couple digital nomad visas there for maybe some longer stays. Like I said, Austin started his new career in data science, and he's loving it. And so just working, growing, learning in that career, and then just continuing to grow the business and just trying to inspire as many people as possible to embrace a life of freedom and to step into the driver's seat for them. And beyond that, I really don't know where life's going to take us.
That's so inspiring. So inspiring. I would love for you to let us know how people can find and work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty easy to find. Coachingbymonica.com is my website. You can also find me on Instagram at Coaching by Monica, Facebook, Coaching by Monica. Pretty simple. There are several different tiers to work with me. Some of the best resources I have are actually free, with the blog and the podcast. I also have a freebie about tuning into your intuition to be able to embrace more of that lifestyle and that flexibility in lifestyle. I also have a masterclass that I'm obsessed with, and I'm super excited for you guys to join. It's the Becoming Unstoppable Masterclass, and it's really designed to help you be able to make goals that work with your brain. We talked a lot about how your brain is so rigid and like freaking out when you try to make changes. And so I created a masterclass specifically to teach you how to make those changes incrementally so you can work with your brain instead of
Mhm.
fighting it all along the process. So I'm really excited about that. So make sure you're tuning into that. And then, of course, I'm open for one-on-one coaching as well.
Wonderful. And I'll link all those in the show notes so you're very easy for everyone to find and work with you and dive into a lot of your blog and your freebies to give them a taste of what can be offered when working with you directly. So my last question I ask all my guests, and it's the name of my podcast. The question is for you is what does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart?
Mm. For me to live with an awakened heart, I just have this kind of visual of just like this open, expansive feeling. And it's just to be awake and alert in your life and to be so intentional and to live each moment in your life and to kind of fight that hardwiring our brains have to create those shortcuts so that you can fully enjoy the little things. And it's just so expansive. And I feel like it connects so much more to other people when you have that awakened heart
Mhm.
because you're able to notice and it's contagious. You'll infect other people who also want to wake up in their lives and have this awakened heart and just be able to live every day more intentionally and just live a more full and expansive life. And I've seen it in my own life. That's how I ended up coaching, is because people were like, oh my gosh, I want to do this too. I want to do this too. And the more you start to wake up and live more intentionally in your life and really embrace that awakened heart, the more you invite other people to do the same.
Mhm.
And that is what we need now more than ever. We need people who are awake, who are alive, who are alert in their lives, and who are becoming the best version of themselves. That is what we need. And so it's just such an empowering thing to embrace.
As a beautiful explanation of what it means to live with an awakened heart, because our awakening heart, it's 5,000 times more magnetic than our brain, isn't it? Or it reaches a 5,000 times more of a field than the
Yeah.
brain. And we're learning more that it's heart intelligence. And then when there's the cohesion of both, you are just unstoppable. So, and I like how you said that it's needed more now than ever for people to live with an awakened heart, because we are going into this whole new phase of living, I believe, new earth and people awakening more into their purpose instead in getting out of the old paradigm. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories and your experiences. And yeah, thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for sharing everything.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And thank you for taking the time to create such a space where you're inviting people to elevate themselves so much. I really appreciate all the hard work that you do going into this and also just inviting me on here. This is such a fun conversation.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. My reflection in your eyes or me reflecting back to you. It's nice to hear that. So thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awaken Heart podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenheartpodcast.com.